First of all, I would like to welcome everybody for joining IEF's Conservation Chat and happy World Ranger Day. Thank you so much for joining us. So we're really glad to have you here this morning. And I put a little note in the chat. We have people from all over the world that are going to be joining us today. So if you'd like to put in where you're tuning in from, we'd love to see that. And if you're representing an institution or an organization, we'd like to see that as well. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Julie Bates, and I'm the Donor Relations Manager at IEF. And you probably get a lot of emails from me about the chat. So thank you so much for logging in. I also have on the line with us, we have Deborah Olson, our Executive Director, and Sarah Conley, who is on the line with us as well. Sarah is our Conservation Coordinator. Before I turn it over to Sarah, I would like to go over a couple of housekeeping items as we go through the presentation this morning. We will be recording the presentation, and also once the speaker starts, if we could have everybody turn their videos off and mute their microphones, that would be really great. Since we have people from all over, we like to save the bandwidth as much as possible. So turning off video and muting really helps us. Also, as we go through the presentation, if you have any questions for our speaker, if you would put the questions in the chat, we will go through them that way. And then at the end of the presentation, if we have some time left over, we may be able to take some live questions. So that's just kind of our procedures. And then in the meantime, I'm going to turn it over now to Sarah Conley, our Conservation Coordinator. And so take it away, Sarah.
Thank you, Julie. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon or evening, wherever you're from. My name is Sarah Conley. Like Julie said, I'm a Conservation Coordinator, and we are really excited to be celebrating World Ranger Day today with an actual ranger, someone who has an immense amount of experience in the field. So let me give you a quick introduction about today's speaker, and then we'll jump right in. So Amos Gwema is the Principal Intelligence Officer for Zimbabwe Parks and Wildlife Management Authority and is responsible for all wildlife intelligence in Zimbabwe. He has 25 years of experience in law enforcement, first as a police officer, then as a wildlife ranger. He has secured over 290 convictions, which is a record for any ranger in the country. He takes a community approach to conservation, seeing communities as the first line of defense against wildlife crime. You'll probably hear him say it today, but his phrase is, if you see something, say something, and do something. And it's this kind of attitude and this kind of change that brought him to winning the 2020 Tusk Wildlife Ranger of the Year award. And he was also recently featured on the Nature series, A Year on Planet Earth. So we have quite a distinguished guest for World Ranger Day, and we are so happy to have him. Welcome, Amos.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for introducing me to the audience, Sarah. I think the audience now know me, then we can proceed.
All right, let me get your slides up for you and we will get together.
Right, on that one, probably I can explain the meaning of the logo on the left, right?
Yes.
Right. Today's topic is about community, the first line of defense for effective wildlife conservation. This is the project which I am doing and is being funded by International Elephant Foundation, supported by Game Ranger Association of Africa. Let me explain the meaning of the logo on the left. As you can see, underneath the elephant trunk, there are people there. That is the community. Why on the lower end? It's because the community is the foundation of wildlife conservation. Then on the right side, is a ranger. Rangers are also key components in wildlife conservation. That is the second line of effective wildlife conservation. Then on the left side, that is a sign of judiciary. So judiciary is the last line of defense for effective wildlife conservation. Why I put the elephant on the center? If we conserve elephant, it means other animals are also conserved. Thank you very much. You can go to the next slide. Right, I think I've explained from that picture, the first and the foremost and the foundation for effective wildlife conservation is the community. Then the middle line is the law enforcement officials, rangers, police officers, and other officers like immigration officials. Then the third is the judiciary, which is the last line of defense. If the judiciary is not effective, wildlife conservation will not be successful because people will go to jail, will go to court and released, continue committing crime. So judiciary is also critical on wildlife conservation. Thank you. Go to next slide. Right. Community, first line of defense for effective wildlife conservation. The community is the first line of defense for effective wildlife conservation. Without community support, conservation effort will not yield the required results. The community lives with poachers, and poachers live in community. The poachers dispose of illegal wildlife products in the community, e.g. ivory, bushmeat, etc. And the community can consume those products. Wildlife law enforcement officials need to communicate with the community to get their support. Conservationists, we need to assist the community with poverty alleviation project so that community would value wildlife. The community this year alone handed over 9 live pangolins to the authorities, that is here in Zimbabwe. All the pangolins were picked in the community and were released in the protected area. Thank you. Go to next slide. The evidence of the community work. There I'm handling 2 live pangolins. Those live pangolins were handed in by the community, and the community is not community closer to each other. The community are very far apart from each other, about 100 kilometers apart from each other. So it shows that wherever the message about conservation is preached to the community listens. That's why we managed to release 2 live pangolins at the same time in the protected area. The background, that is Hwange National Park. Thank you. Right. Policies, treaties for community support. Slide 6, 8, 10, and 12 below explains the treaties and arrangements and agreements on how to treat the community. The question is, are we recognizing those treaties? Does the community benefit from those policies, agreements, treaties? Does the conservationist or government respect those treaties? I think we need to do more on community so that they benefit from wildlife resource. Next slide. Right. In 2013, there was an African Elephant Summit. What was agreed there? We should engage communities living with elephants as active partners in their conservation. In 2014, there was London Declaration, and the agreement there was increased capacity of local communities to pursue sustainable livelihood opportunity and eradicate poverty. Work with and include local communities in establishing monitoring and law enforcement networks in areas surrounding wildlife. Kasane Declaration 2015 promote the retention of benefits from wildlife resources by local people, where they have traditional and or legal rights over these resources. We will strengthen policy and legislative frameworks needed to achieve this, reinforce the voice of local people as key stakeholder, and implement measures which balance the need to tackle the illegal wildlife trade with the needs of communities, including the sustainable use of wildlife. Go to the next slide. Right. The picture below depicts the living conditions of some villagers who stay close to wildlife zone. If the villager is asked to poach an elephant, definitely he or she will attempt. We need to assist the community with poverty alleviation project. The picture of the house does not mean that people from such houses are poachers. However, we need to support such communities so that they are not tempted into poaching. Go to next slide. I will continue with the treaties. Brazzaville Declaration 2015. It says, recognize the rights and increase the participation of indigenous peoples and local communities in the planning, management, and use of wildlife through sustainable use and alternative livelihoods, and strengthen their ability to combat wildlife crime. United Nations General Assembly Resolution 69 of 314 on tackling illicit trafficking strongly encourages member states to support, including bilateral cooperations, the development of sustainable and alternative livelihoods for communities affected by illicit trafficking in wildlife and its adverse impacts, with the full engagement of the community in and adjacent wildlife habitats as active partners in conservation and sustainable use, enhancing the rights and capacity of the members of such communities to manage and benefit from wildlife and wilderness. Sustainable Development Goal 15, 2015, in target of Section 1517 to end illegal wildlife trade, and in target 15C, which emphasizes the need to do this through increasing the capacity of local communities to pursue sustainable livelihoods and opportunities. Go to the next slide. The picture below shows a man who was arrested through community, right? Communities can be powerful and positive agents of change towards reducing wildlife crime. They can be our eyes and ears. Let us communicate with the community. The person below was arrested through community assistance, and the meat was destined in the community. So the community could easily kept quiet and consume the meat, but the community came forward and the person was arrested. Go to the next slide. Hanoi Statement on Illegal Wildlife Trade 2016 reads, recognize the importance of supporting and engaging communities living with wildlife as active partners in conservation through reducing human-wildlife conflicts and supporting community efforts to advance their rights and capacity to manage and benefit from wildlife and their habitats, and developing collaborative models of enforcement. The active participation of local people is critical to effective monitoring and law enforcement, as well as sustainable socio-economic development. Go to the next slide. Right. The failure to support communities may lead to elephant poaching, like what happened below. Those are the rangers who are going to attend to a crime scene of elephant poaching, because the community can do retaliating killing of the elephants by saying the elephants destroys our crops, so they will kill and sell the ivory. So let's support the community. Go to the next slide. United General Assembly adopted Resolution 71-326 on tackling illicit trafficking in wildlife 2017 encourages member states to increase the capacity of local communities to pursue sustainable livelihood opportunities, including from their local wildlife resources. Strongly encourages member states to enhance their support, including through transnational and regional cooperation for the development of sustainable and, as appropriate, alternative livelihoods for communities affected by illicit trafficking in wildlife and its adverse impacts, with the full engagement of the community in and adjacent to wildlife habitats as active partners in conservation and sustainable use, enhancing the rights and capacity of the members of such communities to manage and benefit from wildlife and wilderness. Go to the next slide. Right, the picture below shows the engagement which I am doing as part of the International Elephant Foundation grant on community action against wildlife crime. The picture shows village heads whom I had meeting with so that they will also go to their village and address their subjects. So those meetings led to recoveries of the pangolins, which you have seen, arrest of people. Go to the next slide. Right, level 2, law enforcement officials, rangers, police, custom officials, etc. These are the middle level officials. They are like a code, which on one end ties the community and on another end ties the judicial on wildlife conservation issues. They should have a relationship with the community and the judicial. They should communicate and interact with both community and the judiciary. They need support and training on law enforcement and interpretation of the law. They need enough resources for patrols, training, radio communication, etc. Other law enforcement officials, e.g. custom officials, police officials, require regular training on wildlife issues so that they can, when they came across wildlife trophies, they can easily identify and make a proper decision. Go to the next slide. Right. The pictures above shows my interaction with the rangers. This was after a training. I was presenting a training to those rangers on human rights issues, basic wildlife intelligence gathering. Go to the next slide. Community expectations from the rangers shown above. Effective enforcement require engaged, motivated communities who want to protect their wildlife and forest and see authorities as trusted allies, not the rangers as enemies. Communities need well-equipped, timely, dependable, and effective support from enforcement agencies. Communities need to benefit from wildlife resources, need support from conservationists through poverty alleviation program within their communities. Go to the next slide. The pictures above shows rangers who was on patrol. They picked those wire snares which could have been used to snare wildlife. So that shows the critical and the importance of the rangers on conservation. Go to the next slide. The last line of defense for wildlife conservation, judiciary. Judiciary is the last line of defense for effective wildlife conservation. The judiciary should interpret the law and come up with fair judgment without fear or favor. They are important components in wildlife conservation. Poachers will fear committing wildlife crime if the sentence imposed is appropriate and according to law. Judicial officials need to be capacitated through training workshops about wildlife regulations. Joint training is required with wildlife law enforcement officials so that needs and challenges can be exchanged. and also joint training. Thank you. Joint training will help to bridge the gap between the two. Go to the next slide. Right. Lastly, I want to thank the International Elephant Foundation, the Game Ranger Association of Africa, the Janet Trust, Save the Rhino Foundation for the support of community projects. Without International Elephant Foundation, I wouldn't have managed to recover the 9 pangolins, which has been recovered this year. Let me quote Dr. Jenny Godow. When we put communities at the heart of conservation, we improve the lives of people, animals, and the environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Amos. And just a note for everyone out there, he's coming to us remote from Zimbabwe, so his connection's not good enough to make the video work. So that's why you don't get to see a smiling face this morning, but you got to see him in the pictures of the presentation. But great talk. Thank you, Amos. I think now we can open it up to some questions.
Thank you very much.
Can you start by telling us a little bit about how you got into being a ranger? How did you grow up? Where did you grow up? And sort of what inspired you to become a ranger?
Thank you very much. I grew up in Masvingo. It's a province which is a bit far away from wildlife areas. I will say until I finished my ordinary level, I had never seen an elephant. I grew up in the communal and in the rural area. I understand the meaning of poverty. I used to go to school barefooted. So after I finished my ordinary level, the only available opportunity for me was to join the police, where you will be given accommodation and training. You will be on salary. So I opted to go to the police because of the background. After I worked in the police for 9 years, I was transferred to CID headquarters, the Interpol desk. While it's at the Interpol desk, I was on the wildlife desk. So that's where I learned about wildlife, illegal wildlife trafficking. Then I say, I want to be on the front line of wildlife conservation. Fortunately, an opportunity arose. National parks advertised for posts of wildlife investigation rangers. I applied, and without knowing anyone at the Wildlife Authority, I was invited for the interview and passed the interview. So I just thought that this was God's plan to be a wildlife conservationist. God knew what was ahead of me. So that's how I became a wildlife ranger. And on that note, I want to tell you that I was supposed to have been deployed to an area which had no much wildlife. But one of the person probably who was connected to the bosses say, no, I can't go to Wange. Wange has got adverse weather conditions. Because I had no one to cry to, I just say, let me go there. Little did I know that it was an opportunity for me to be known to the international world. Thank you very much.
Very interesting. And we're all very lucky that you took this path. So I think you're right, that it is the right path. We are getting some good questions. Someone's asking, when it comes to poaching for elephants in Zimbabwe, is it mostly using guns or are people using snares? And then people had more questions about the snares. Are they prevalent in Zimbabwe as they are in other countries? I know they have a big snare problem in Uganda. Is snaring a huge problem in Zimbabwe as well?
Thank you very much. Let me first answering on the issue of elephant poaching. Mainly in Zimbabwe, it is done through the use of guns. Elephant, big as it is, usually it's difficult to poach using a snare. And on interest sake, this year, we arrested through the International Elephant Foundation program of community outreach. We arrested 2 people who were using cyanide, and they had successfully killed 2 elephants using cyanide. So this is another method of elephant killing in Zimbabwe. And if those people were not arrested, probably a catastrophic like what happened in 2013 could have happened, because we recovered about 5 kilograms of cyanide. So it's very rare for elephant to be poached using the snares. But snares are used for other plains game, like buffaloes. They can be killed by snares, the antelopes, imbalas, etc. And the problem is most pronounced on areas adjacent to the protected area, because those animals, so that picture shows that person whom we arrested, he was using cyanide, and they successfully killed 2 elephants. So if we had not recovered that cyanide, probably thousands or hundreds of elephants could have been killed. So I want to thank again International Elephant Foundation for the fantastic work that shows the crime scene where the elephant was killed. So that's how, basically, that's how elephants are killed in Zimbabwe, because the elephants, they roam freely. They are not in a protected area. They roam freely. They can go into the wild. They can go. So that shows, right? That scene 3, it's a picture showing the cyanide. That's how they use the cyanide. Like this time, it's now a dry season in Zimbabwe. They put cyanide in that container and put water, because of the weather conditions. The elephants will come and drink the cyanide. Then it will not take long for it to die. So that's how they kill in Zimbabwe, using guns and cyanide. That shows even the ladies, they are also involved in illegal wildlife trafficking. Those ladies were the facilitators, were the ones who were buying those ivory. So it shows that it's not gender sensitive crime, but those who go for hunting, normally they are men. Rarely a lady has been arrested for poaching in the park, but ladies will be the facilitators now, linking up with the buyers. So basically, that's how elephant poaching is done. Snaring is a troublesome on areas around the park, like that picture which I showed you with a man standing behind game meat. All those animals were killed through snaring. And I couldn't share with you, he had killed 15 imbalas, and we recovered that guy, and we recovered the heads, the skulls of 15 imbalas, which he had killed. So that shows how big the snaring problem is. And those, the meat will be packed into small portions, selling them at $1 each in the community. So snaring is a serious problem on plain games, not on elephants. Imagine if one person can kill 15 imbalas at one time. And after, when we interviewed him, he said he was in the field for 4 days. So if somebody could manage to kill 15 imbalas within 4 days, it shows how serious it is. When the area was swept, was checked for snares, 120 wire snares were recovered in the general area where the person was arrested. So it shows how serious it is. If we have got 4 people in the community doing that, it means we'll lose a lot of wild animals. Thank you very much.
You're so right. That's just horrible. And there's so much of an impact that they can make just by one person. People are asking about your community work. What specifically are you doing to help the communities, to reduce poverty in the communities? What kind of outreach work are you doing?
Thank you very much. Outreach work, which I am currently doing through the grant from the International Elephant Foundation. So far, we've constructed 2 community gardens. We have bought 2 grinding mills for the community. I have been distributing books to school children. And recently there is a poetry competition, and all the poems were going to record them. And by the end of the year, International Elephant Foundation will have over 100 different poems from school children. And those school children were giving them data, that is airtime to buy data for internet for their studies as a motivation, as a prize. And all those funds are coming from the International Elephant Foundation. And I want to say again, thank you, International Elephant Foundation, because now the program is a national program. Initially, I started it as a program around Chisarira National Park. But after I attended on national television, the whole country is now also want to join the program. So the challenge is now is to satisfy the whole country now. It is now a national program. Those books, they come from Tusk. We distribute those books. They come from Tusk UK, and the books are distributed freely. But now, because the program is now a national program and the books are not sufficient, it is now, the books are now distributed as per price to individual school children, because the demand is very high compared to the resources at hand. So those are some of the community outreach projects I am doing. I'm also doing a drama, which will be on a DVD. It will be a 30 minutes wildlife educative drama in video form. And that one will be distributed again to International Elephant Foundation. I think it will change the mindset and the perspective of the community, because I believe that we should teach the community first, then arrest them. Because if we teach them that don't commit wildlife crime, if somebody commits, we arrest that person, and the person will have he or herself to blame. So those are some of the community works which I am doing. And if International Elephant Foundation would want to share the comprehensive report, definitely they can share with you. Thank you.
Thank you. We have even more questions. People are inspired by your outreach and the empowerment that you do within communities. They're asking about your community informants, people who call you and let you know what's going on. So are these informants helpful in tracking poachers like those with cyanide or other techniques? How does that work? How are you inspiring them to reach out to you and help protect wildlife?
Thank you very much. I think from the presentation, I say the communities can be our eyes or our ears. So what I do, like in the beginning of the year, I distributed randomly about 2,000 t-shirts with the International Elephant Foundation logo and Tusk logo. And on those t-shirts, there is On the back of the t-shirt, there is a phone number, my contact, my mobile number. So the community will then call me using those mobile, using that number on the back of the t-shirt to say, no, we have Mr. So. We have seen like those people who were arrested with those who had poisoned the elephant. They removed the tusk, took the tusk to their homestead. So one person who was herding the cattle followed them and then later called me to say, now we have seen so and so with ivory, and they've taken the ivory to their homestead. Now it's the rangers and the police who would then go there, go to the homestead of the person and make an arrest. The person who gives information is never divulged. And in some instances, a wife can lead to the arrest of his husband. We have experienced those things. So that's how it is done. It is done without divulging information to the person arrested. Thank you.
That's very smart because you have to protect the communities from any sort of repercussions too.
That's correct.
People are
That's
asking,
correct.
yeah, well, because I think you've been involved in wildlife protection long enough to where you've seen every aspect of this. So your procedures for doing things are very well thought out.
Yes, thank you very much.
We have a question about in December of 2017, China banned elephant ivory trade. Have you seen poaching decline since then in Zimbabwe? Has there been any sort of reduction since China made that policy change?
That's correct. There was a bit of reduction in elephant poaching because of the failure to have the market. I think it's working because if there is a market, even those who appear to be like legal hands, they can go an extra mile to do illegal acts while it's hunting. Even if it is a registered hunt, they can go an extra mile so that they know that they will have got the market for the ivory. So I think it has helped because if I have got ivory and there is no market for that ivory, definitely I will not be attracted to have that ivory because it will be valueless to me. So I think that also helped in the reduction of poaching.
That makes perfect sense. People are asking about what they can do if they're in, Western countries or in the United States. What actions can they take to help these communities, to help you with your work?
Thank you very much. I think we need to do more on the community assistance, right? I will not mention, or I think it's public, right? I will go public. There is an organization which donated 2 million starting this year for the next 25 years, meaning to say 50 million for Wange National Park, right? For the protection of wildlife. If you can Google, you can get the name of it, because it's now in the public domain, but I will not divulge the name for now. But what I am saying is 2 million has been released for wildlife protection in the park. You see now, what will happen next? The Wildlife Authority will buy state-of-the-art land cruisers, radios, drilling holes, and doing quite a lot in the park. And from that 2 million, there is nothing set aside for the community. right? For an argument's sake, let me say, Hwange National Park, there are 200 boreholes for wildlife, right? But go to the adjacent community, not even one borehole will be drilled or has been drilled by the wildlife conservationists. So I think we need to do a balance, right? We need to assist the community as well. Imagine 2 million, the whole of 2 million going to the park and nothing going to the community. To me, I think it's not fair. The international communities, I think they should support the projects like being done by International Elephant Foundation, the community projects, so that the community can benefit. Because there is a community which is in urgent need of a borehole, but I failed to drill that borehole because it costs about 6,500. That is complete borehole with solar panels and fencing. It needs 6,000 USD. I can't go to National Park to say, you have got 2 million, which you were given by this organization. Can you also drill a borehole just for 6,000? And that borehole will save a large portion of the community. So I think there is need for more funds to go towards community projects. And I will challenge even International Elephant Foundation to say, Amos will give you this grant. Let's go on the ground and see what has been done. And you will also hear the comments from the community. So that's what I am expecting. There is need for more funding towards community projects. As you can see, all those treaties, which I read to you, I think there is nothing which has been implemented. From my experience, there is nothing which has been implemented, but we sit down, come up with very good policies, come out with very good programs. Implementation, nothing.
You make a great point, is that if you start at the local level, you make a bigger impact for directly to people. And some of these sort of overarching big policies almost never get implemented. And so that's something for everyone to consider about what kind of support really is effective. We have some more questions in the chat. Someone's asking about the treaties, like you just mentioned. So all those treaties supporting wildlife conservation efforts, do you think they should include provisions where they support local communities and implementation locally so that they can be more effective?
Definitely, I think those treaties, if they are implemented, probably as a requirement. If, for example, International Elephant Foundation can flag one treaty to say, how are you going to implement this treaty, right? As a starting point to say, how are you going to implement the Kasane Declaration? I think if we start like that at local level, definitely we can do something. I've shown you the house of a villager adjacent to the national park, right? That is a homestead of a village head. So what I did now at that homestead, that is where I put one of the community grinding mill. It's at that, I just hide the photo, but that is where I put one of the community grinding mill. Now, they are now appreciating and they are eager to know who is the International Elephant Foundation, because I say, no, this is not from me. This is from International Elephant Foundation. And they want to see the person known as International Elephant Foundation, because they say, since time immemorial, actually amazed and surprised to get that donation. So such projects, we need to do them more. Thank you.
Thank you. More questions. Someone's asking, do you use canine units as part of your operations? And if you have you found them to be effective?
Yes, we use canine units for wildlife law enforcement. Canine units, they are used mainly on roadblocks. Canine units also depend on intelligence. And where do we get intelligence? We get intelligence from the community. Like that person arrested with cyanide. When the team went there to arrest him, they went with the canine unit because the dogs, they can sniff the ivory. So that's how we use the canine units. But the canine units also know human intelligence. And where do we get human intelligence? We get that from the community. So it's complementary of canine unit, human intelligence, and community. If brought together, definitely we get successes. Thank you.
Definitely important to all work together. I think that's smart. So can you tell us a little bit about, is there tourism in your area? And if there is, does that help the community conservation? Does that help give jobs and help the community grow out of poverty?
Thank you very much. Yes, there is tourism in the area, and the tourists, they assist to grow and assist the communities. Like, for example, I have some solar lights, which I have distributed. They came through some tourists who say, no, we have heard about you, Amos, we have read about you on internet, so we have brought this. We want you to give them to the school children. So the community, yes, assist. There are lodges where the communities are employed, but not everyone will get employed. But definitely tourism is assisting the communities.
Okay, so we've talked about this before, but maybe clarify. So if people donate to community projects, say through IEF, that helps the communities. And tourist activity, going to that region and staying in the lodges and seeing the beautiful wildlife, that'll help the communities too. So these are all things people in the United States or in the West can do to help, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. But even if the tourists came, the major beneficiaries will be the owners of the lodges, like National Park, the tourism company, which brought the tourists. They are the major beneficiaries. The communities will also benefit. I propose that you tell probably the tourists from United States to say, we also want to have village tours. I think they should have a day. Those tourists from United States, they should have a day to tour the community so that they really understand what is really happening. They really understand the lifestyles of the people in the community. If it is like Wange, I will volunteer to move around with those people, because you now know me, I am known by the government. You know, they are very safe, because at times people think about their safety, so that they will come. I can take one or two, move with them deep in the communal area so that they understand exactly, not to be told by me or to be told by the tour guides. Thank you.
That's very kind of you and would be an amazing experience. I think people learning firsthand about the communities is really powerful. Should people also advocate for different policies with the government? Would that be helpful too?
Definitely, that will help a lot, because the government is the key stakeholder as well. But the conservationists, the non-governmental organization, they are also key. And the government listens to those for positive contribution towards conservation. So the change of policy is quite important. But my starting point is, let us fulfill those treaties, because the government of Zimbabwe agreed to all those treaties. So the non-governmental organization and organizations like International Elephant Foundation, they should hold the government to account to say, are we fulfilling this? It has been agreed by government. That's why there will be treaties, because it has got the blessing of the government. So we should, as a starting point, implement and fulfill those treaties.
Great point. Well, since today is World Ranger Day, we have some questions about your experience as a ranger. A lot of times people don't realize how dangerous it is to enforce wildlife laws, to protect wildlife from poachers. Could you talk about the risks and the dangers of being a wildlife ranger that you face on patrol and that even you face now in your activities?
Thank you very much. The ranger work is very dangerous. Some rangers have lost their lives through exchange of gunfire with armed poachers. As I told you, in Zimbabwe, poaching is usually done through the use of firearms. So in most cases, we have lost some rangers, but fortunately for Zimbabwe, I think for the past 2 years or so, we have not lost any ranger through armed poaching. But other countries where the poaching is very high, rangers have lost their life through poaching. So it is a very dangerous job which need strong men and women to do. Further to that, a ranger stays in the park 24/7. Whether it is raining, whether it is cold, the ranger will be in the park protecting the animals. So it's quite dangerous. In the park, there are snakes, there are dangerous animals. And fortunately for Wange, we lost one ranger this year who was killed by a buffalo, by a wounded buffalo. So that shows the dangers of rangers in the park. As much as the rangers want to protect those animals, the animals, they don't know. They can view the rangers as enemies. So it is quite a dangerous. And also my further appeal to the international organizations to support the rangers after their retirement. As I said, a ranger stays in the park 24/7. And the rangers rarely interact with the outside communities. They stayed in the park for 24 hours, 7 days a week. Probably he or she will get 2 days time off, and that person will be in the camp. So to prepare for their retirement, it is usually difficult. So you find somebody after retirement, he go into the community and die. Well, the person will not have a house, the person would not have prepared for the retirement. So I think the international community should also consider to support those rangers who will be retiring so that they have a decent life outside ranger work. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, we need to support rangers. Can you tell us a little bit about the living conditions of rangers when they stay inside the park?
Thank you very much. When the rangers are on patrol, they will have some tents. They can stay 2 in the tent or 3 in the tent. So that's their living conditions. There is no permanent structures for rangers in the park. For example, Hwange National Park is about 14,500 square meters. So you can't build permanent structures all over the park. So they use the tents to move from one place to another, one place to another. So that is the living conditions of the rangers. And normally they go for patrol for 14 days in the bush, continuous 14 days, without going back to their families. Probably after 14 days, they are being changed, others also come. So that is the life of the ranger.
Wow, that is pure dedication. We have one more question that is a slightly different topic, but I think you might have a great answer to it. People are asking about hunting in Zimbabwe. So Zimbabwe is one of the countries that grants hunting licenses for big game hunters. How does this impact wildlife conservation and local communities in Zimbabwe?
Thank you very much. Hunting, to some extent, also assist the community. But if you go to the community, they are complaining that because we have got what is known as campfire. They say they are not seeing the benefits, but to some extent it helps because, for example, Zimbabwe elephant population for Hwange National Park, it has got the carrying capacity is now above what should be in the park. So if you come to Hwange National Park, probably during the month of September, October, November, you can see the destruction which the elephant would have done. All the trees will be shrubs without anything, without leaves. So that shows that the number of elephants compared to the food is now, it's not balancing now. So programs like hunting, if properly done, properly implemented, surely they can assist the community. Because normally hunting is not done in the park. Hunting is done in the outside the protected area. The park is like a maternity wing where the elephants or other wildlife will run into. They will run from the hunting areas into the park. So hunting, to me, I think it helps the community and the country at large because of the regulation that there is no hunting in the national park. That is the Zimbabwean law. In the national park, like Hwange National Park, no hunting takes place. Hunting takes place outside the national park. Those mischievous animals which would go out of the park are the ones who will be hunted. Thank you very much.
That's very interesting, and a really interesting way to look at the health of the habitat, making sure that the carrying capacity is at capacity and that we're not, through our actions, impacting those wildlife habitats. Well, we're coming up to about an hour, and I think we've answered all the questions. So we are so pleased to have you here today, Amos. And on World Ranger Day, I think you were the perfect speaker to have. You really did, I think, educate everyone and share an incredible amount of lived experience. And for that, we are very grateful.
Thank you very much. And if there are any other questions, they can send them, then we will communicate and assist each other. I am very passionate about wildlife conservation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Julie, let me turn it over to you for a sec.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Sarah. And thank you, Amos, for that fascinating conversation. I learned so many things today. We really appreciate you joining us. And I want to thank everybody else for joining us as well. I see a lot of our donors that are here on the call with us. Thank you so much for all of you that are monthly donors and for those of you that have actually donated in honor of World Ranger Day. We really appreciate you very much. We've put our donate link in the chat. If you are so moved by what you've heard today and would like to make a donation to support Amos and the Rangers, we would really appreciate that. That said, why don't we have everybody turn on their cameras and give Amos a big round of applause to thank him for being on here today. We just really appreciate it and learn so much every time. So thank you, Amos. And then lastly, before we close, I would like to just put a reminder out there. August 18th, we have Mike Kegwin, who will be our next guest speaker, and that will be at 10 a.m. Central. And if you haven't received an email, you're probably on my email list now, so you will get a reminder about that, and hope to see you then.